Well, I really like Norv Turner, and it's going to be interesting to see how this relationship works out. Norv did great things with Troy Aikman at the start of his career, and a lot of people credit Troy's development to Norv. So at this point in Norv's career, with a still relatively young quarterback, it's going to be fun to watch how those two work together. The most important thing from my perspective with Cam is his ability, not just for consistency, but when things aren't going well, the ability to climb out of that hole. I think sometimes he'll get in holes and then he keeps digging and the hole gets deeper. Will he and Norv be able to figure out a way when things aren't going well to be able to redirect things and center things and get back on track? That's the issue.
I think that last point is such a good one, because if people look at the 15-1 MVP year as an outlier year in Cam's career, because it is, he was way better that year, and the team was, than any other year he's been there. How did they get to 15-1? Well, probably because they started 6-0. And I know that sounds silly, but my point is, Cam seems to, it goes either, it rolls downhill in a positive direction or a negative direction. Like when he's smiling and he's doing his first down celebration, he really does seem to be one of the 3-4 best quarterbacks in football. But he also, and I think it's fair to say, of all the star quarterbacks, if things go poorly, he doesn't respond to that well, right? Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, it's really hard for some guys to, when things go poorly or they make a mistake, to recover from that. And then and I think your point's well taken too about when things are going well. God, things go really well. They just build, and you don't want that because the game can be decided in the first quarter.
And Norv Turner, you think, can impact that?
Well, I'd like to think with his level of experience, with the range of guys that he's worked with,
yes,
that he'll be able to draw on those experiences and say, okay, Cam, this is what worked for me with these 5 quarterbacks. This is what worked with these 5 quarterbacks. Let's try some of these tools and see what works best for you.
And Norv, as a coordinator, he's really helped quarterbacks become more accurate. So, to me, from the beginning, what is Cam's buy-in? Because I believe if Cam buys all the way into this new way of teaching, because in a long NFL career, we've seen Brady, we've seen Drew Brees, we've seen a lot of the elite quarterbacks that they had to either go through a philosophy change, either a team change, or how do I get better? When you start running out of talent, we saw Drew Brees. When he went from San Diego to New Orleans, he improved so much as a thrower of the football. And then Sean Payton opened up as far as the offensive play calling, and we saw that overall growth happen right there. Is Cam going to be able to just, what I always try to tell athletes is, every day do you submit your talent to the coach, because if you do that, the chance of being great are better, because that's what great players do. That's what Tom Brady does not get credit for. Regardless of who is there in New England, besides Belichick, man, he goes to work and he is trying to get better. And I believe if Cam keeps that same attitude, he's had that through the offseason, if he keeps that, I believe we're going to see a much improved Cam.
It's just that I feel like we have the same conversation every single year. He needs to be more consistent. He can't play peaks and valleys. It doesn't work for him. When things are great, you're going to have a great game. And when things aren't, you basically know how the game is going to go. At some point, this 8th season, at some point, are you like, well, this is the guy. He's just an inconsistent guy. Or do you really think
some other things have changed around him. And that force multiplier can be a guy like Norv Turner. Like we have seen this in people's career, where you have a different offense or you have a different ear going into that person. That person decides, you know something? I am going to finally listen. So it's not the same old story with Cam Newton, because some things have changed. That organization, they have new ownership. There's a breath of fresh air there. He has Norv Turner. I believe in Norv Turner a lot like Coach. And I believe in Cam Newton's ability. And you have seen Cam where he has grown as just a pure option quarterback to a guy that is able to decipher defenses and make big plays consistently.
And you hope as guys get older, there's an openness to trying new things. There's an openness to coaching, and that leads to growth. And you got to be able to take your ego and put that aside too, because if you're dealing with an ego, that stunts growth as well. So the willingness on his part to say, okay, let me trust this, let me see where this is going, that's his responsibility. And to me, that's how you can start attacking inconsistency. You can start attacking those peaks and valleys, but it's got to come from him and his willingness to try things to overcome that.
You make a great point in trust, and I think that now, because Cam had a relationship with Mr. Richardson, the owner. Now they have a new owner, so I know Cam is trying to develop that. But I know the one person in football that Cam trusts is the head coach. The head coach decides that I'm going to move on from Mike Shula. I'm going to go out and get Norv Turner. That's where Cam needs to be like, Coach, I trust you. Norv is one of the best in the business, and I believe he's able to buy into that. Then we'll see the results there in Carolina.
And the other thing that Carolina, when they were at their best, and Ron Rivera, he doesn't like the nickname, but the Riverboat Ron nickname, there's a reason. In 2015, bet more so than any year, really any team I've seen in modern NFL, certainly any year for the Panthers, they recognized that we do not have 3 downs to get a first down. We've got 4. And when we have arguably the best short yardage back in the league, and he's our quarterback, we have to take advantage of that. And what people, I think, fail to recognize the advantage that was gained that year was, if they had 3rd and inches or 3rd and less than a yard, they knew we're going for it on 4th. So we can take a deep shot to Ted Ginn on 3rd and short when the defense isn't necessarily expecting it, because it's not a punt if it's an incompletion. I don't know where Norv Turner's philosophy on that is, but I do know this. They've got a weapon no other team in the league has, which is Cam Newton in short yardage. He's shown the ability. He's never got hurt on one of those short yardage plays. He has as high of a success rate as anyone other than Brady, who was for like a decade somehow he was undefeated on quarterback sneaks. He's great at it, and that gives you an edge that no other team can duplicate. And that's where they've got to. That's where they've got to try to exacerbate their edge, because they don't have great running backs. Christian McCaffrey is an interesting weapon. C.J. Anderson, anyone could have had. They've got to take advantage.
But one of the biggest problems is one of the things you alluded to earlier is on one of those 4th downs, which you're not in 4th down that much. So to me, it's not a huge advantage as you would think that you would have. But if you lose one of them, what's Cam's body language going to be? What kind of message are you going to send to the defense? So, yeah, Cam is a dynamic leader. He is a dynamic offensive player. But Cam has to build a play successfully from in the pocket for him to be able to reach his potential, Coach.
And it's hard with players that respond so dramatically to whatever's happening in the game, because
so many bad things happen.
So many bad things happen.
It's impossible to maintain.
I remember coaching a corner that was up and down all the time. We had to try defensively to design things to get him started early in the game. And it happens with the receivers a lot of times. The guys where you got to give them something positive early, but you want to move past that as a coach. And especially in the quarterback position, realize I need to have some tools in my toolbox to deal with the ups and downs of the game.
And that's one thing, because I was a very emotional player, and as I got older, I realized that there were times where you don't feel good. There are times you don't have that energy. There are times you don't have that little pep talk. So it's like a lot of times where I come on the show and Jenna's like, Chris, what's going on today? It's like, no, I'm just focused. It's one of those days I don't have a whole bunch of pep, but I got to be able to grind it out. And you don't see that with Cam. Like all the other quarterbacks, when they get in that little rut, they're able to grind it out, able to get a first down, able to win early. And that's something Cam's going to have to learn.
There's 2 high-level quarterbacks in this league that show their negative emotions on their sleeve. Cam and Phillip Rivers. Phillip Rivers, we see it when he seems to almost be like throwing a tantrum on the field. Cam doesn't do that. But Cam seems to just be beside himself at the sidelines at times. Has the towel over his head. He seems morose. And you can't convince me that doesn't impact his teammates. If we know that a wide receiver or a corner's emotions can impact some of his teammates, the best player on your team and the quarterback doing it absolutely can. Now, sometimes that energy is infectious in a positive way. Gives them confidence that they wouldn't otherwise have. But that is a part where Cam, he's one of my favorite players to watch, but it's a fair criticism that he's old enough. He's too old for that, to be pouting on the sidelines. He's got to get better at that.
And those things do affect everybody around you. And one of the great things about Tom is you go into the 4th quarter, and regardless of what the situation is, you know that you have a chance, and you know that in his heart of hearts, he believes that he's going to find a way to win the game, and that's through tons of adversity. So when you're going like this on the sidelines with a player who's leading your team, it affects the group, and affects them dramatically.
All right, Coach. Thanks for joining us.
All right.
And
a third handshake.
How about
Of
that?
course.
Coming
I think
up,
it's 4, actually.
Was it?
which Warrior star is already planning to leave? That's
Get out.
next on
All of
First
them.
Things First.
New team.
Never going to happen.
To go into
Be there for life.
to LeVar's league.